Why does the same passionate celebration get called inspiring for one player but unsportsmanlike for another? What happens when identical emotions on the basketball court get completely different reactions from fans and media? These are the questions at the heart of one of the most talked about topics in women's basketball right now, and today we're diving deep into the spotlight shining on Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Lately, this debate has been everywhere lately, from social media to sports talk shows, and it's got people asking some pretty tough questions. We're talking about how two incredible athletes can do basically the same thing on the court, but somehow the reactions are completely different. It's fascinating, it's frustrating, and it's definitely something we need to talk about. Both of these women have absolutely changed the game of basketball. They've brought millions of new fans to the WNBA, created unforgettable moments, and pushed the sport to new heights. But the way we talk about them, that's where things get really interesting, and that's exactly what we're going to break down today. The first look, how the spotlight found them. When we first started paying attention to Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, it was impossible to ignore just how different the coverage felt right from the start. Clark burst onto the scene at Iowa like a basketball magician, hitting shots from places that seemed impossible and racking up assists that left everyone's jaws on the floor. The media fell in love with her story immediately. This small-town girl with incredible talent who was rewriting the record books. From day one, Clark's intensity was framed as something special. When she got fired up with referees, it was called passion. When she celebrated big shots, it was competitive fire. When she showed frustration after tough losses, it was evidence of how much she cared about winning. The narrative was clear. Here was a player who wore her heart on her sleeve, and that was exactly what made her so appealing to fans everywhere. Angel Reese's introduction to the national spotlight happened a bit differently. She was already dominating at LSU, putting up incredible numbers and leading her team with this fierce energy that was absolutely electric to watch. But somehow, when Reese showed that same intensity that was being praised in Clark, the language started to shift. Her celebrations became excessive, her emotions became attitude, and her confidence became arrogance. The difference was subtle at first, but it became more obvious as both players gained more attention. The same fire that made Clark a media darling seemed to make Reese a target for criticism. Both women were playing at the highest level, both were incredibly competitive, and both were showing the kind of passion that great athletes have. But the spotlight was definitely hitting them differently right from the beginning. The championship moment that changed everything. The 2023 NCAA Women's National Championship game between Iowa and LSU was supposed to be a celebration of women's basketball at its highest level. Both teams had fought their way through incredible tournament runs, both had superstar players, and the entire country was watching. It was the kind of moment that the sport had been building toward for years. The game itself was everything you could want in a championship. Clark was doing Clark things, hitting impossible shots, making incredible passes, and keeping Iowa competitive against a really tough LSU team. Reese was dominating the paint, grabbing rebounds, and providing the kind of leadership that championship teams need. Both players were performing at an elite level when the stakes couldn't have been higher. But then came the moment that really set everything in motion for this ongoing debate. After LSU secured the victory, Angel Reese made the "you can't see me" gesture toward Caitlin Clark. Now, here's what makes this so interesting. Clark had used that exact same gesture earlier in the tournament during her own celebrations. Reese was basically giving back what had been given, a competitive response in the heat of the moment. The reaction was immediate and intense. Some people saw it as just part of the game, the kind of competitive back and forth that happens in sports all the time. Others thought it crossed a line, especially considering the stage and the moment. The double standard under the microscope. This is where the debate gets really intense, and honestly pretty uncomfortable for a lot of people. When we look at how Clark and Reese are covered in the media and discussed by fans, there are some patterns that are really hard to ignore once you start paying attention to them. Caitlin Clark's emotional displays on the court consistently get described using positive language. When she gets frustrated with referees, it's fiery leadership. When she celebrates big plays, it's pure passion. When she shows disappointment after losses, it's competitive drive. The narrative around her intensity is that it makes her more relatable, more human, more likable as a player and person. Angel Reese shows similar levels of emotion and competitiveness, but somehow the language changes completely. Her celebrations become showboating. Her interactions with referees become losing control. Her her confidence becomes arrogance or poor sportsmanship. The exact same competitive fire that gets praised in one player gets criticized in another, and the difference is pretty stark when you really look at it. What makes this even more interesting is how consistent these patterns are. It's not just one incident or one reporter, it's a pattern that shows up across different media outlets, different social media platforms, and different fan discussions. The bigger picture: media, race, and perception. We can't talk about this spotlight debate without acknowledging the role that race plays in how female athletes get covered in the media. This isn't just about these two players, it's about patterns that have existed in sports for decades, and they're playing out in real time with Clark and Reese. Research has actually been done on this topic, and the findings are pretty eye-opening. A study from Rice University looked at over 700,000 social media posts about Clark and Reese, and what they found was telling. The exact same gesture or celebration that got positive reactions when Clark did it often got harsh criticism, sometimes with racial undertones when Reese did it. The language differences aren't subtle when you really examine them. Black female athletes often get described using words that carry negative connotations: aggressive, attitude, classless, for showing the same competitive spirit that gets called passionate or fierce in white athletes. It's not always intentional, but the impact is the same. Social media makes all of this even more intense. A single moment can go viral in minutes, leading to thousands of reactions and debates that often lack context or nuance. The WNBA wins big despite the controversy. Here's something that might surprise you. Despite all the debates and heated discussions, both Clark and Reese are doing incredible things for the WNBA. The league is experiencing the kind of growth that it's been dreaming about for years, and these two players are right at the center of it all. The numbers tell an amazing story. WNBA viewership has absolutely exploded this season, with games featuring Clark's Indiana Fever or Reese's Chicago Sky consistently breaking audience records. People who never watched women's basketball before are now regular viewers, and arena attendance is through the roof everywhere these teams play. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has been talking about this unprecedented growth, and she's directly connected it to the star power and excitement that players like Clark and Reese bring to the game. The rivalry between them, whether it's real or just perceived, creates storylines that keep people engaged and coming back for more basketball. Looking forward, what this all means. As this spotlight debate continues to unfold, there are some important lessons we can all take from it. The most obvious one is that we need to be more aware of how we talk about athletes and whether we're being fair in our judgments. Both Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are phenomenal basketball players who are changing the game in their own ways. They're bringing new fans to the WNBA, creating memorable moments, and pushing each other to be better. The league is in an incredible place right now, thanks largely to the excitement and talent both of them bring to every game. So, what do you think about this whole situation? Have you noticed these differences in coverage? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button if this got you thinking, and don't forget to subscribe for more content that dives deep into the stories behind the sports.